Welcome back. There's 20 minutes to go for the pre-open session to kick off. Prakash Diwan is joining us now. The SGX still indicating a 2% lower start. That's about 371 points. Prakash, good to have you with us here on the program as always. Thanks very much. So we'll start sharply lower. The question is, will dip buyers come, or do you think it's going to stay like this for a while after a gap down, maybe sideways a little bit lower, before things start to look up again? What's your sense?
Good morning, Prashant. So, it's pretty tough to anticipate the reaction of the market because this was something which is more like a wake-up call. It's a double-edged sword. I mean, on one side, that this is something which is not precipitated, out of the blue. It has been in the making for a while. And the second thing is that it also makes you believe that it's coming at a time where Europe is crumbling big time and there's a cold, dreary winter ahead of us. And if the US were to kind of get into this kind of a tizzy, what happens to our market is that it's been driven by this momentum in the last couple of months, thanks to FI buying. And that is something which could have a negative impact, and it would trickle down into a probably negative flow or probably almost at a standstill. But what it does is, on the other side, that while India valuations have been expensive on an indices basis, people who are looking at selecting stocks or picking up stocks for the portfolio will probably find businesses which are slightly insulated or relatively insulated from what's happening to the US economy and the reaction of the Fed thereon. So I think it's going to be a stock pickers market. It'll become a very bottom-up market now. I don't think there's anything trending in terms of the macro moves that you could benefit out of. And that's exactly where, the India focus will become much more sharper. And then it'll probably be driven by domestic flows and retail participation. So whether that happens, the buying on dips happens today, I don't know. I don't think so it would happen in such a hurry because the stock pickers always have more patience as compared to trend, traders. So my sense is that today you'll probably see a little bit of sell-off and driven by a lot of algos, a lot of levels that people watch out for critically. And once that happens and the dust settles is probably when you'll probably see stock-specific action, which may not translate into indices again, as I said earlier, but then it will probably be back to business in a couple of days.
Okay, I want your thoughts on the auto ancillary space because it's leading up to a discussion that we're having with Lumax Auto Tech, and I'm sure you track that as well. But any auto ancillary you pick, Prakash, Asahi India, Precol, Raj Ratan Wire, Mahindra, CIE, Shanti Gears, all sitting at fresh 52-week highs. What's happening here and what's your pick of the pack?
So, Sonia, good morning. It's an interesting space, and we've kind of, made a comeback of sorts thanks to the fact that most of our auto ancillary plays, and including Lumax, when you hear them out, you'll realize, it's become quasi-global now. None of these companies are depending anymore on domestic sales or domestic growth trajectories. They have started eating into market share, which earlier probably was catered to by some of the Latin American players or some of the European players as well. But my worry on auto ancillaries is that anybody who's exposed to the European market is going to go through a little bit of a shift in terms of their numbers. I don't think Europe is going to be in a position to produce and absorb and place orders for a lot of the auto ancillaries thereon. And interestingly, the OEM market in India, if the chip shortage is kind of resolved completely, is likely to bounce back much more sharper. So now the focus will have to be on auto ancillaries that are more domestic. So, simple things. And I remember Nigel covering some of these small names, recently introduced names like SGS and all, which are into very different spaces, which are into very niche kind of spaces. And that has started doing well. So informatics, telematics, cosmetics, aesthetics, those are things that are kind of looking up quite positively. I would wait for the European market to kind of give some sort of an indication of how bad things are going to be before buying into an auto ans. But interestingly, companies that are into tires and supplying tires and raw material for tires are the ones that could probably be interesting. So Raj Ratan, of course, features there. You could have a chemical play from the side of Nosil. So there are these interesting plays that you could look at. But I'm sure we'll get to know much more insights into the sector once we hear the management ahead of us.